Has there ever been a time in history where we are more immediately inundated with news that tends to bring us to despair or to give up hope? Do you realize that when you invest in a year-end Christmas gift at Kensington, that the opposite is true? That you're actually seeing hope and joy and love and peace come to the world? We're seeing that in so many countries in the world, explosive church planting movements. And probably none is more amazing or more miraculous than what is happening in the new country of South Sudan. Ruben Mariakal, our partner, and his friends in South Sudan are putting their life on the line each day. They literally don't know from day to day if they're going to live or die. But in the midst of this, overwhelming peace is coming to the world. And so today, as you watch this amazing story of this unlikely hero, a man named Nichodemus, realize that you and I get to be a part of something that is so unlikely and so amazing. When you give, we get to be a part of what Jesus Christ is doing in the world.
In my country, peace is rare. People are so used to fighting that many have given up hope that things can change. But God says, blessed are the peacemakers. And sometimes those that bring peace are the ones that no one expects.
I'm in South Sudan, the newest country in the world, and it's located in East Central Africa. And this whole region has been in conflict and ravaged by war in the past 60 years. And actually, it's not getting better, it's getting a whole lot worse. In fact, the compound that we're staying in just a few weeks ago had a bunch of rebels that had come through with guns and threatening violence, and everyone there just did not know what was going to happen. Fueled by racism, political strife, religious persecution, the price of the conflict has been very high. There's actual active landmines just a few feet away from where children are playing. Everyone here lives in a state of uncertainty, not knowing what tomorrow will hold. They all live in fear and long for peace.
When you see a man having marks on the head or the shoulder, that one means the number of the people that a person has killed during the war. And then when you see the women, you see some women are having marks. That one also shows the husband of the woman has killed many men. They share that glory in the name of husband. So she acts like the husband is an hero. My testimony is about my sister's son. The child grew at my home for more than 10 years. When he was making the 12th year, the child was taken back to the village. He was transferred to the cattle camp. When he reached the cattle camp, they went to the field where the cows are grazing. Then another tribe that used to attack the Toposa tribe called Boya came and raided the cows. And then on the process of raiding, the child was caught by a group of more than 10 men. They used a knife, then they slaughtered the boy. The people took me there using a motorbike to the place where the child was killed. So I went and I saw the body of the child lying on the ground. One hand was cut, then the other hand also was cut. The leg was cut. The head is far away from the body. I was not happy. I became very hungry. So I buried the boy, and then I came back to the village. So I wanted to take one gun to follow the men where they have gone. My aim was to go and clear them all. As you see this mark on my face, these 3 men have killed 3 people, and I was used to it. What was in my body, in my heart, was only to have a revenge. I was only aiming for a revenge. Then one gun which was left in the village was hidden somewhere because they knew that I loved the boy, and my aim was, if I am to get a gun, I was going to clear even 50 men in that place. So I grew very annoyed, in which I was even almost to hang myself when the people went and hide the gun. The only way was to go and hang myself, but the people went and advised me.
Tormented by the death of his nephew and unable to find his gun, Nicodemus reached a level of despair that led him into considering taking his own life. It was while searching for a weapon in a nearby village that he ran into Reuben Mariakal, who would eventually become his mentor and spiritual advisor.
The life that Nicodemus had before getting Christ, his aim was to be the hero of the village. And being a hero is to raid as many tribes, the surrounding tribes as possible, is to kill as many people as possible. But once he encountered Christ, there was a radical change in his heart.
Other people went and advised me until they brought me back to Kopweta here, whereby I met with Pastor Reuben and then with other believers. They had to advise me and say, that is not the way. Try to have peace in your heart. So I went and I stayed for more than 20 days until I forgive those people. Christ replaced this problem in me. I had to have peace again. As I am now, I'm going always to the church. I am also advising others who have the same grievances like the way I used to have.
So I see Nicodemus, and he no longer views the other tribes as enemies. He views them as objects of the grace of Christ, and they're candidates of heaven. And that's why he has now the desire to reach out to the other villages as his friends.
Since his encounter with Jesus, Nicodemus has been radically transformed. Under Reuben's guidance, he now plants churches in the very fields where the Toposa, Dinga, and other neighboring tribes have violently clashed for centuries. Armed with nothing more than the gospel and a motorcycle, he brings peace to a region that many believed impossible to reach.
So we have 2 communities in our location here. So we have the Dinga community and then the Toposa community. These 2 communities are very hostile to each other. So when we planted the church here, the Toposa and the Dinga were able to meet together. So what they did, they have to reconcile. Those who accepted Christ, they were able to meet together, and then they worship together, they became one. But in other areas whereby the church is not planted, the war still continues. Many blood is being shedded every time. But we saw really a church can bring peace in a community.
The mission of our ministry is letting the light occupy the land. And we see darkness manifesting itself in different forms. The greatest is spiritual darkness. There is intellectual darkness. There is darkness of hatred and violence. There is socio-economic darkness. And we see, as we are in this land, our ministry is to become hands and feet of Jesus and shine the light and let the light occupy the land. I see Nichodemus maybe finding his fellow warriors in the other village as friends. Even his friends who are raiders, they were 10 in number. His gang of 10 men, and 6 of them he has evangelized and they have come to Christ. When all these guys who are warriors come, they are now warriors for Christ. They are not taking the spears and guns, they are taking the gospel to the next tribes. I see this hope, and I can see changes will be here in years to come.
Jesus means everything to me. In the first place, I was lost. I was a sinner. I was a killer. I was robbing. I used to do many things which are not right. But when Christ came into my heart, I have now hope of being with the Lord.
I think when Christ is taken out of the equation, there's no hope in this country. I mean, governments can come with policies, but that cannot transform the hearts of people. It takes only the power of Christ to transform the hearts of people. If it's just empty philanthropy, helping people and doing that, there could never be hope. But when we are preaching Christ, who is the Prince of Peace, I'm sure ultimately the Prince of Peace will be able to bring peace to this country, so there is hope.